just like seeing her for the first time.
Zio let out a long sigh of relief as he finally felt the tension in his chest dissipate. Turning toward Luang, he informed him that he would personally come to pick him up in 3 days. After giving his assurance, Zio excused himself and bid farewell before leaving as well. Nawang hesitated for a moment. Luang, sensing her unease, asked directly why she had come. She froze on the spot, her face heating up with an unexpected blush. For a brief moment, she lost herself, thinking how Luang looked even more handsome in person compared to the picture she had seen before. Quickly regaining composure, she coughed lightly to cover her embarrassment and finally spoke. Her purpose, she explained, was to invite Luang to become an honorary disciple of the Hongchuan Martial Arts Academy. Luang raised an eyebrow, curious, and asked her to elaborate. Nawang explained that being an honorary disciple was nearly the same as being a full disciple, but with a far more flexible arrangement. He would not be required to show up every day, yet he could freely attend all classes, access every facility, and use the academy's equipment at any time he wished. More importantly, he could even receive personal guidance from her father, himself one of the most respected martial arts instructors in Bay City. The honorary status would grant Luang the same privileges and treatment as the highest-ranking instructors within their academy. Nawang admitted that, while the title was mostly nominal, it carried immense weight in the martial world. He would have no obligations or duties, but the prestige alone would be enough to shake Bay City. As she explained, Nawang's thoughts wandered. If she could successfully recruit Luang, then the reputation of the Hongchuan Martial Arts Academy would soar sky high. Parents across Bay City would rush to enroll their children, desperate for even the smallest connection to the genius who had already shaken the entire martial world. The image of Hongchuan would be cemented as the city's foremost martial arts institution. But to her disappointment, Luang shook his head and politely declined, startled. Nawang stood up immediately, her composure breaking as she tried to argue. She urged him not to be so quick to reject her offer, emphasizing that the terms were negotiable. There was no need for such a hasty refusal. Luang calmly explained his stance. He was fine with being listed as an honorary member she could advertise. Truthfully, that he sometimes trained at their academy, which he indeed did during his assessments. But beyond that, he wanted no false associations. He was not a disciple of their martial arts academy, and he would not allow anyone to claim otherwise. If you can accept this condition, Luang said firmly, then I have no problem. But if not, I'm sorry. He further added that he would still continue to visit their academy for official assessments in the future, since it was close to his home. Hearing his reasoning, Nawang eventually relented. She promised to respect his wishes and assured him that she would arrange for his monthly stipend of $5,000 to be delivered directly to his home. With that promise, she said her goodbyes and left. The moment the door shut, Lu Shang's parents turned to him with disbelief in their eyes. They asked if they were dreaming, unable to process what had just happened. The chairman of the Bay City Martial Arts Association had visited their humble home. Their son had been rewarded with an enormous salary and generous rewards, and now the prestigious Hongchuan Academy was extending invitations. It felt surreal. Luang held his mother's hand firmly and reassured them. Everything they had witnessed was real. This was the result of his cultivation and his efforts. He told them gently that from this day forward, their lives would change. They would no longer need to exhaust themselves with hard labor. He would shoulder the responsibility. Meanwhile, in the Xing'an Medicinal Hall, a very different scene was unfolding. Suzu sat at her desk, frustration etched deeply across her face. She bit her fingernails anxiously, annoyed that after a whole week, she still had no information about the mysterious genius alchemist. She had searched through all the recent registries of alchemical masters, but her search had turned up nothing. What infuriated her, even more, was the tonic produced by Lu Sheng. Its medicinal potency was several times stronger than the typical Grade 1 and Grade 2 tonics available on the market. In fact, based on the strict standards issued by the alchemical Master's Association, Lu Shang's tonic, had already surpassed the majority of grade 3 tonics. Normally, a single grade 3 tonic could sell for several $1,000s. Yet Lu Shang's tonic was priced at less than $1,000 completely, unheard of. Her anger boiled over, and in a burst of frustration, she slammed her palm against the desk, startling her subordinate, MAF, who had been idling nearby. Suddenly widened his eyes when something on the screen caught his attention. Excited, he called out to his boss. He had found the alchemical master they had been searching for. Suzu immediately stood up, demanding to know where the master was. Maf pointed at the monitor displaying the news there. Clear as day, was Luang. The seductive. Suzu could hardly believe her eyes. The genius alchemist she had been searching for so desperately was just a high school student at the same time. Far away in Shuai City's Lone Fox Mountain, a bird was about to land on a branch when a figure shot past like a flash of lightning. It was Luang sprinting with unimaginable speed. As he ran, he reflected on his progress. He hadn't expected the stellar impact technique to be adaptable into a body technique. Yet here he was, combining its fourfold amplification with the techniques he had absorbed from his mysterious dream. His body technique had ascended to a whole new level, granting him speed at least 5 times faster than a regular rank 2 martial artist. He named this new footwork the cloud-chasing step. Reaching the mountain's summit, Luang began cultivating the natural breathing technique. With every controlled inhale, he absorbed energy from the atmosphere, continuously replenishing his stamina. He activated his body's latent potential, while heightening his senses to perceive the changes of all creation around him. It was as if he was becoming one with the heavens and the earth. Channeling his energy, he unleashed a decisive blow. The sheer impact shook the surroundings, leaving Luang exhilarated. He had broken through once again. His health status had risen, his stellar impact had grown more powerful, and he estimated he could now exert up to 6-fold power. Though his original purpose on the mountain was to collect herbs for refining the marrow-nourishing elixir, this unexpected breakthrough left him thrilled. His stock of muscle and blood strengthening decoctions was nearly depleted, and they had begun losing their effectiveness due to his rapid progress. The marrow-nourishing elixir was his next step forward. This herb, still unknown in this era, would have gone unnoticed without the system's guidance. Yet Luang had already ordered the other necessary ingredients to be prepared at the mountain's base. Confident they were ready, he launched into his cloud-chasing step and descended swiftly. At the mountain's base, he approached a vendor, clad in green clothing. Introducing himself, Luang asked if the herbs he had ordered were ready. The vendor greeted him warmly and confirmed that all the herbs were gathered, fresh, and mature enough for use. Carefully inspecting them, Luang nodded with satisfaction. He then reached into his pouch and prepared to pay, reminding the vendor of their agreed price, $500 per piece for a total of 10 pieces. But before he could hand over the money, the vendor stopped him with a sly smile. "Not so fast," the man said. "The price isn't $500 per piece anymore. It's $1,000. Luang listened carefully as the vendor insisted that he had to buy all the medicinal herbs. His brows furrowed slightly, his calm eyes narrowing as if weighing the intent behind those words. For a brief moment, silence hung in the air before Luang finally asked in a low, composed tone what exactly the vendor meant. The vendor, realizing from Luang's accent and appearance that he wasn't from Shuai City, let out a sly grin. With a mocking chuckle, he explained that in Shuai City, outsiders had no choice but to play by their rules. His voice dripped with arrogance, and though the words sounded casual, the way he leaned forward carried the weight of a threat. Behind him, several of his comrades stood ready, their eyes fixed on Luang with predatory glee. They were grinning widely, as if savoring the sight of a fresh victim caught in their net. The tension thickened as the man in the orange tank top began rolling his shoulders and cracking his knuckles, warming up his fists like a boxer about to enjoy a fight. Meanwhile, another thug, holding a knife, ran his tongue across the blade with a sick delight, as though he were licking something as harmless as a peanut. Their display was meant to unnerve, to intimidate, and to force Luang into submission. The vendor's expression twisted into a cruel smirk as he taunted, asking if Luang's parents had never taught him the simple lesson that when outside one's home, one should acknowledge defeat when necessary. His words were condescending, each syllable dripping with false pity. It was clear now that these men had no intention of making a fair deal. They were forcing him to buy what he didn't need, using intimidation as their weapon. Realizing their scheme, Luang let out a slow breath. Then, without warning, he released. His aura, the energy that surged from him, was cold and heavy, pressing down on the group like a sudden storm. His calm eyes sharpened into something fierce, and as he stared at them with unshakable confidence, the vendor instinctively took a step back, the grin on his face faltering. His voice trembled slightly as he warned Luang not to pull anything reckless, quickly adding that they were all rank 1 martial artists. He reminded Luang that there were no surveillance cameras in the area, no witnesses, no protection. Even if he called the police, no one would believe the word of an outsider like him. Still, the gang was not ready to back down. The vendor gave a sharp nod, and the goons rushed forward with sneers on their faces. At that very moment, the vendor barked mockingly, advising Luang to be a good boy, unless he wanted to be beaten into a bloody pulp. But Luang didn't flinch. Instead, he calmly placed one hand against a large boulder beside him. With just a fraction of his strength, he clenched his fist and drove it forward. The impact cracked the massive boulder apart with a resounding boom. Dust exploded into the air as fragments scattered around. The sound reverberated through the alley, freezing every movement in an instant. The goons stopped dead in their tracks, their eyes widening in disbelief. For a moment, it was as if they were children again, caught by their furious father with a stick raised in hand. Cold sweat poured down their backs, soaking their clothes, and their throats tightened as they swallowed hard, unable to speak. On the other hand, Luang bent down calmly, picked up a broken piece of rock, and clenched it tightly in his fist. The stone shattered into dust, slipping like sand between his fingers. His voice was steady, carrying a sharp edge of mockery as he reminded them of their earlier words. "Given the situation, isn't it about time you acknowledge defeat?" he asked, his tone quiet but powerful enough to crush their pride. Opening his hand, he showed them the crushed remains of the rock, the dust clinging to his palm. He rubbed both hands together lightly, cleaning off the remnants, as if the feat he had just performed was nothing more than brushing off dirt. The gang members' knees buckled, and they dropped to the ground in panic. Their words tumbled out in a frenzy of apologies. First they called him Big Brother, but quickly corrected themselves, addressing him as Father. Stammering, they admitted they had been blind and foolish, knowing now that they wouldn't dare continue fighting. Luang simply asked if he could get the herbs. The vendor, now pale and trembling, saluted him like a soldier, with an obsequious smile. He called him Father again, and stammered that Luang could have all the herbs for free, carrying a basket filled with herbs. Luang did not simply walk away. He paused, his eyes sharp but not cruel, and spoke to them with the authority of a parent scolding wayward children. He told them that business should always be founded on honesty, and that cheating others, whether young or old, would only bring shame to themselves. The 5 men, their bravado completely gone, raised their hands like chastised schoolboys, thanking Luang for his advice and promising to turn over a new leaf. In truth, Luang had wanted to pay for the herbs, but since they outright refused to take his money and instead offered them free out of fear, he could do nothing about it. With the ingredients secured, he thought about the next step, preparing for the upcoming training camp. Meanwhile, the vendor remained on his knees, even after Luang had left, raising one hand weakly with a gloomy, hollow look in his eyes. His mind spun with unease. Could it be that all the students nowadays were as monstrously strong as this Luang? He had thought the boy might be rank 1 at best, but now he was convinced Luang was at least a rank 3 martial artist. The thought chilled him more than the aura he had felt earlier. The following day, Luang stepped off a military vehicle upon arriving at the Donging Province Prodigy Training Camp. His eyes scanned the compound, and he couldn't help but notice how it resembled a full-fledged army base. Soldiers moved with precision, the sound of boots hitting the ground echoing through the open courtyards. Luang's gaze then fell on the other participants, each one wearing a badge that marked their status. He frowned slightly, recalling that his mother had proudly displayed his badge at home, and in the rush of leaving, he had forgotten to bring it. One of the guards, noticing him alone, approached with a stern look. "Where are you from? Why are you by yourself?" he demanded. Luang answered simply, telling him that he was from Bay City and had arrived late because of some circumstances. Nearby, a girl dressed in pink whispered to a companion in yellow. Surprised. But the representative from Bay City already arrived yesterday. Why did they leave him behind? She wondered aloud. The man in yellow smirked knowingly. Maybe the organization only decided to include him at the last minute, he said with a mocking tone. His eyes narrowed on Luang, noting the absence of a badge. Besides, Bay City hasn't sent any representatives for years. And now, suddenly, too. His voice was full of suspicion and disdain. When the guard pulled up Luang's information, he remembered the chairman had mentioned him earlier. Still, the man in yellow laughed, sneering. So that's it. He's just someone with the chairman's favor. Honestly, that's more impressive than being rank 3 in martial arts getting special treatment like that. I wonder how many private gifts he got from the chairman of Bay City. The guard's patience snapped. Irritated, he barked at them to be quiet. His tone softened slightly as he turned to Luang, ordering him to join the group from King Yuan City. With no further fuss, Luang nodded and followed. At the entrance ceremony, the guard instructed participants to leave their luggage on the floor, assuring them the staff would collect it. Luang obeyed, stepping inside with the others. But as he entered the hall, he lowered his gaze, noticing something strange about the floor beneath him. Before he could dwell on it, the massive gate behind them closed with a loud clang. The participants murmured in confusion, wondering why they were being locked in. The guard's voice echoed through the chamber, commanding silence. Your mission is simple. Make your way to the exit at the far end of the corridor. If you succeed, you pass the entrance exam. If you fail, pack your bags and leave. With that, he wished them good luck. Panic immediately spread through the group. Many had assumed this would be a simple ceremony, not a test. Suddenly, the floor gave way beneath them. The ground split open, and one by one, the participants plummeted into darkness. Luang landed gracefully, his movements precise and controlled, as though he had expected the drop. In contrast, an older man with gray hair hit the ground chin first, groaning in pain before clutching his jaw and crying pitifully like a child. Luang ignored the wailing and turned his focus to the walls. Closing his eyes, he extended his psychic power, probing the environment. What he sensed stunned him. This was no ordinary corridor. The intricate layout concealed traps and illusions details only his heightened perception could uncover. His lips curved faintly as he marveled at the growth of his psychic abilities, comparing them to scenes from the novels he had once read. Nearby, the man in orange, Lin Shu, scoffed aloud. So this is it. Boring. I expected more from an entrance exam. Another participant, dressed in blue, rounded on him angrily. You knew something was wrong with the ceremony and didn't say anything. Lin Shu raised his chin arrogantly, replying, if you don't even have the ability to adjust to your circumstances, you don't deserve to call yourself a martial artist. His voice carried disdain, every word cutting like a blade. Tensions flared. Lin Shu sneered at the man in blue, warning him not to dare call himself a genius of King Yuan City. Once they escaped his incompetence, would only drag down Lin Shu's reputation. Red-faced with fury, the man in blue snapped back, spitting insults and even calling him the son of a cat. The blonde girl among them tried desperately to intervene, her voice urgent. Stop, we're all from the same city. It wasn't easy for any of us to enter this training camp. Fighting each other will only hurt us. The most important thing now is to clear this assessment. Lin Shu, though smug, reluctantly agreed, saying it would be a disgrace if any of them failed, but his eyes narrowed suspiciously as he glanced at Luang. Still, this test won't be simple. And we happen to have an outsider here. He gestured at Luang with mock politeness. Would you be so kind as to scout the path for us? The blonde girl bit her lip, worry clouding her expression. The man in blue, however, burst into laughter, sneering as he pictured Luang stepping into traps like a helpless rat. Luang sighed, his patience thinning. His voice was calm but firm as he told Lin Shu to step aside if he didn't plan to go in himself. Lin Shu smirked, replying in a mocking tone. "Confident little bay kid, aren't you? Fine, go ahead, good luck. And when you beg for help, we'll be waiting." But Luang only smirked back, his words cold and sharp. "Only cows and sheep move in herds. A predator walks alone."